All right, 3, 2, 1. We are recording. Hello and welcome to the Gonzo Experience. I am David Gonzo Mamano here with another show every Wednesday morning, folks, for 5+ years. Do you believe it? We are in the top 30% of all podcasts in the world in the business category right now. And is it because I'm wonderful? I would like to think so. But a lot of it, I think, has to do with the compound effect of doing an episode every week for 5+ years. And so, and I think I'm going to move into the top 25, maybe 20% today, because I have such an impressive guest. We became friends on Facebook a few weeks ago, and I started researching her and was just like blown away at what she's done. I'm like, you need to be on my podcast. So Rana el Kaliouby, welcome to the Gonzo Experience.
Hi, Dave. Thank you for having me.
I am so excited to have you here. So we have a mutual friend, Elaine. I always want to call her Elaine Herman because I grew up with Elaine Herman. In fact, I'm forgetting her. Blias, right? How do you say it? I don't even know. But Elaine, we love you. Elaine, thank you for forgiving me for setting you on fire in high school. Whole nother story, but thank you, Elaine. I appreciate that. But so Rana, listen, you have done some amazing things in your very short life so far. You're very young and very impressive. This bio is going to blow people away. But I want to just read a little bit about it and then have you expand on it. But so you are an Egyptian American scientist, entrepreneur, investor, author, and an AI thought leader, and you're on a mission to humanize technology before it dehumanizes us. I love that. I love that. Love that. You are the deputy CEO at Smart Eye and formerly the co-founder and CEO of Effectiva. Did I say that right? Effectiva?
Yes.
Which is an MIT spinoff and defining AI company. You are an executive fellow at the Harvard Business School, where you teach about AI and startups. You have a best-selling book, a best-selling memoir, Girl Decoded, a scientist's quest to reclaim our humanity by bringing emotional intelligence to technology. And this follows your journey growing up in the Middle East, moving to the United States to become an entrepreneur and an AI pioneer. You have a track record of translating technology innovations into products that address massive market needs, including market research, automotive, health, robotics, and education. You serve on the Boston Steering Committee for All Raids. You're supporting female entrepreneurs and funders. You are a member of YPO, the Young Presidents Organization, and you serve on YPO's New England board and is a World Economic Forum young global leader. This is one of the best bios I've ever read. You are a venture partner at RIT Media Lab E14 Fund. You're a trustee in the Massachusetts Technology Leadership Council and at the American University in Cairo. You are a TED speaker. I watched your TED Talk. Phenomenal. Everybody check it out. And you are the co-host of a PBS Nova series on AI. Rana has been recognized as Fortune's 40 under 40 list and one of Forbes' top 50 women in technology. She holds a PhD from the University of Cambridge and a postdoctorate from MIT. I can't believe you're talking to me. Remember Saturday Night Live? It was, I am just a caveman. Remember that? I have my undergrad and that was enough. So thank you for making time to talk to me today. And the reason I want to have you on the show, not only those really impressive accomplishments, but you're really an incredible entrepreneur. And that's what I loved about you from the start. You've done some incredible things. So enough of me talking. Would love to hear about you and your journey. Tell us about Cairo, coming over, how you got your start. And then I want to hear about some of the exciting things that you're doing today as well.
Have you ever been to Egypt?
I have not, and I would love to. Totally on my bucket list.
We're gonna fix that. Yeah. Right. So I was born in Cairo, Egypt, and grew up around the Middle East. So both my parents were in technology, and so they moved around. We were in Kuwait first until the first Gulf War, and then we moved to Abu Dhabi. And then I went back to Egypt to study computer science as an undergraduate at the American University in Cairo. And I've always been fascinated by how technology changes the way we as humans connect with one another, right? And so that's been really the theme of my curiosity and my research over the last, 20, 30 years. So I did that as an undergraduate, got really interested in human machine interfaces, like that touch point between humans and machines. And I also wanted to become an academic. So my entire career plan was to go abroad, get a PhD, come back to Cairo and teach. So sure enough, I, graduated top of class, whatever. And
of course.
And then, I was like the real nerd. And without even the humor, Dave, without even the sense of humor. So
I'm sure you had a couple jokes here and there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But then, I got a scholarship to go do my PhD at Cambridge University. So, moved there. And my area of expertise was around it. I had this aha moment that, okay, machines and devices are becoming ubiquitous. Artificial intelligence was kind of a new thing, but I could see that it was going to become mainstream, and kind of take on roles that were traditionally done by humans. But a lot of the work in AI was kind of focused on the IQ of the AI, the cognitive intelligence. And I just thought, well, when you look at human intelligence, it's not just your IQ that matters. Your EQ matters a ton, like your emotional intelligence, your ability to read other people's facial expressions and then kind of persuade and motivate behavior change, etc. And so I dove into the science of emotions and particularly facial expressions. People are going to be listening to us, but as you can see, I'm very emotive. Like I really do use a lot of facial movements and expressions to communicate. And so I just became very curious about how can we build emotional intelligence into our machines. And that became my core research at Cambridge. And then towards the end of my PhD, very serendipitously and, opportunistically, I met this MIT professor, Rosalind Picard, who invited me to join her lab at MIT. And and I never looked back. I moved to the US, started a company, just sold the company last year. And it's been a wild journey.
Yeah. So in your TED Talk, you talk about what the company you were creating. And if you tell a little bit more detail. So essentially, like you said, there's so much more to people than this their intelligence level. Like, and listen, all my grandparents are from Sicily. I got that, like I can't talk without the hands, and my face is going all over the place. Absolutely. There's the joke, how do you shut up in Italian? You tie his hands behind his back, right? So we need to move. Nonverbal communication is part of who we are. So tell us a little bit more, because that was really cool. So you basically are able to capture expressions, right? And what do you do with those?
Right. So as it turns out, only 10% of how we communicate is in the actual choice of words we use. 90% is nonverbal. And it is, you're right, it's split kind of equally between your facial expressions, your hand movements, your body posture, your vocal intonations, how fast are you speaking, how much energy is in your voice. So that 90% of nonverbal communication, it just gets lost in cyberspace when we are communicating digitally, be it on social media or even on text or Slack or whatnot. So we use machine learning and deep learning and tons and tons and tons of data to train algorithms to detect these expressions. So for example, when I first started, the technology could just recognize 3 expressions: a smile, an eyebrow furrow, and an eyebrow raise, right? But now it has a repertoire of over 40 of these different expressions. And it's really amazing because we keep feeding it more data and it keeps learning. So that's kind of the core technology. You can do that with voice as well. And now we've expanded even to body gestures. Like we can tell if you're eating or drinking or sleeping. And the sky's the limit. We're just really beginning.
Yeah, that's awesome. So then you sold that company.
Yep.
So now it begins your journey of being a serial entrepreneur, right? So, so exciting. So tell us, what you told me before we talked about it. It's really exciting. Tell us a little bit about like the new adventures that you're working on.
Can you hold on? Somebody's on the door. Sorry. Is that okay? Do you edit this?
Oh yeah. No, we can edit it. Yeah. Monica, edit. Someone's at her door. So go, you got to get it.
All right. Yeah, I have to go get it because otherwise, okay.
Yeah. No problem. We can edit this. All right. You're good?
Our plumber.
So, oh God. Hey, listen, you need
he's upstairs,
get the plumber in there when you can, right? So you don't know when he's going to be. So, all right. So I'm going to back up. I'm going to ask you that question again, and then she'll just edit together. So Rana, you got some great new things going on, some new entrepreneurial adventures that are, I think, really exciting. Tell us about those.
Yeah, so I sold Affectiva last summer. We're 10 months in. I'm now with the merged company. It's a Swedish-based public company called Smart Eye. And they were one of our kind of main competitors in the automotive industry. We're on the same kind of mission to humanize technology and bridge the gap between humans and machines. Okay, he'll be back in 20 minutes. We should be kind of done. Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you. Sorry about that. No problem. The joys of working from home, whatever. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So just go ahead and continue.
Yeah. And now I'm deputy CEO at the merged company, Smart Eye. They're a public traded company based in Sweden. They were one of our largest competitors in the automotive industry. So we decided to join forces to accelerate bringing our technology to the automotive space. But at the same time, I'm also exploring other, one of the things I'm very passionate about is obviously AI and the future of AI and how it's going to impact our lives, but also investing in underrepresented founders and entrepreneurs like myself. So I am starting a new fund. It's called AI Operators Fund. And the idea is it's an early stage fund. We focus on very early stage AI-based companies. And I'm really on the lookout to identify and support these underrepresented founders. They could be not just women, but maybe immigrants or underrepresented ideas, right? I'm really looking for these unique ideas that are going to be world changing, but maybe very risky. So our first investment is a humor-based dating app.
Sounds like my kind of app. I wish I had that in high school. I needed it.
But yeah, the science is actually fascinating. As it turns out, people who if you match people based on their humor profiles, and you get that effect where there's like bantering and teasing and back and forth and, sharing laughter, that is one of the main ingredients for a successful relationship, especially early in the relationship. And so Melissa, the founder and CEO of the company, had this aha moment. She was just frustrated by the superficiality of dating apps where you're just like swiping right and left based on a profile picture.
Right.
And she decided to take a very different approach. You watch content, it's like TikTok, and then using machine learning, we infer your humor profile. And then we match you with people who have a similar humor profile. And so she's just about to launch the app. We're very excited for her. And I just love supporting founders like her, right? And just sharing my experience and opening doors for her, helping her raise money. So I look forward to doing more of that.
Yeah, that sounds like such a great idea. I mean, sometimes you think, is there any new ideas left? And then you hear something like that, you're like, oh my God, that's perfect, And it's going to be interesting to, based on her experience with the science and how it goes, do two funny people like to be together, or is it like one person's funny, one's not, but it's a good connection because of that, So that'd be interesting to see the science on that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's not, somebody can be funny, but not necessarily funny for you, right?
Right. Yeah.
And
I get that a lot. Yeah.
You don't have to be funny for the whole world. You just have to be funny for one person.
Just for one person, right?
Just one person, right? So we're gonna help find that one person.
So this seems very, very personal to you, helping kind of underdogs, right? And maybe it's the best way to say it, to get funded and like you said, helping them with your resources. And I would imagine also some of your experience, your coaching to help them too. Is this something that you experienced, being an immigrant when you were starting, and I don't know if you raised money, but all that stuff it's very personal for you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So my co-founder is the MIT professor, Rosalind Picard, who invited me to join her group. So she and I, very early on when we were kicking off the company, we went to, to the Bay Area to raise money. We did the whole Sandhill Roadshow. And I just remember, so I just want you to picture this, right? Like two women scientists. At the time, I wore the hijab, so I was very clearly Muslim. And we were both pitching an emotion company, and our audience were almost exclusively older white men, right? So you can imagine how that went, right? Like they were always impressed by our technology. We had a lot of credibility because of our MIT kind of heritage and background, but it was so risky. They'd never seen any founders who looked like us, right? And so that made fundraising really hard. We persisted. It's the one thing I really learned from Roz. You don't take no for an answer. So we just persisted, and we eventually raised money from the top tier investors like Kleiner Perkins, and we had Mary Meeker on our board. So it all worked out, but it was really hard. And fast forward, even in the last couple of years when I've raised money specifically from the automotive industry, it was the same. It was very male dominated. There were very few women in the room. And I think it's important to have both female founders, but also female investors, because the female investors are going to decide with their money what ideas to support. And I think we need both, we need to support both sides of the equation. And so that's why I'm venturing, I'm crossing over to the dark side.
Yeah.
And
well, you're going to bring light. You're going to bring light to that side. So,
I like that.
Well, you're being pioneering. You're a pioneer, not only with your companies, but with now, supporting, being, a venture-based company to help support people that traditionally have had a tough time getting support, Right. And I think it's very clear that the tide is turning. I think, you're riding the wave coming in. But I think we all can agree there's a ton of work to be done. Mixing up that mix of old white men. So, they're, of course they're always going to be there, but let's get it all mixed up and have a great rainbow of people there that really could appreciate all types of people that are there pitching. So, and it seems like if they were smart, they would have realized, like, these ladies are cutting edge, and we're going to look really great to support them. But not everybody thinks like that, right? So, I mean, I would.
Right.
If I was an old white man, very rich in the audience, I definitely would have supported you, and I would have looked very good for it, right? So, so that is very, very exciting. So, you're doing so much, and you seem so calm and like just calming force of nature. I don't know how you do it, but good for you. You have kids, the whole works there, right? So, and a plumber coming in your house as we're talking. So a lot of balls in the air. I love it. What do they say in your neck of the woods? You're wicked smart. Is that's right?
Smart.
Wicked smart. Yeah. You're wicked
Boston
smart.
Boston accent.
Yeah. So now you also wrote a book. Was it a couple years ago? Is that right?
Yes. It launched April 2020.
Okay. April. Well, so funny. My book launched March 2020. And I was ready to do this big book tour, as I'm sure you were, and all this publicity. And okay. Thank you, pandemic. I guess I won't be doing all those book tours.
Right. In retro, it was definitely a stressful time, because I don't know about you. We kept debating, should we publish it? Should we postpone? Blah, blah, blah. And then the publisher, Penguin Random House, decided we should just go ahead with it.
Yeah.
And then so we pivoted to doing all these virtual book events. And, now it's kind of standard to have all these virtual Zoom-based conferences, but at the time it was pretty new.
Yeah.
And we had to figure out, I remember the first few live events I did on LinkedIn, my camera was blurry and my internet kept cutting out. We were not at all set up to do these things. But I think in retrospect, it helped with reach, right? I feel like the book reached many more people and more diverse people than I would have if it was pre-pandemic. I don't know about you. Was that your experience?
Well, the only reason I was good on Zoom is because I had been using Zoom for my podcast.
Interesting.
So I already had hit the ground running. I was like an early adopter of Zoom because its recording ability is so great. For a podcaster, it records not only the video, but it records 3 audio files, one of the 2 of us talking, and then one of each separate person talking as well. And editors and producers like to have just those separate files for some, I don't know, but they're like, oh, just to, when they go to produce it, they like having those separate files. So I was already pretty good with it. But it was funny watching people, kind of learn how to use Zoom. And, in when I do stand-up comedy, I talk about some of the most common phrases during the pandemic. And I say that one of them was like, oh, John, you're on mute. You're on mute, John.
Right.
Yeah, John, totally. Mute. Yeah, or bottom left. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we got there. Then there's those stories of, kids would be using the computer before, have these filters, right? And then the lawyer would get on and he looks like a fish or a cat, right?
I know. Oh my God.
Or the kids in the background. I love it. So, so tell us about your book. I imagine it's on Amazon, right? So tell us a little bit about the book.
Yeah, so the book is called Girl Decoded, and it follows my journey growing up in the Middle East, born in Cairo, growing up around the Middle East, and then finding my way to Cambridge, coming to MIT, starting the company. But it also talks about, in a very simplified way, how I built the technology and why I built the technology and some of the really amazing applications of it, everything from helping drivers with distraction and drowsiness, and helping our, cars be safer, all the way to mental health, which is an area that's very, near and dear to my heart. And I think there's huge potential for this technology. So I cover all of that. I remember when I first pitched the book idea to Penguin Random House, I had, lunch with the editor, and he said, listen, I've represented, there's so many AI books out there. I just want you to know we're probably not going to take this on. But, let's have lunch, tell me your story. And I started sharing, my background, and he was like, that's the story. It needs to be a memoir. It needs to be this lock between your personal journey and the technology, and not just an AI textbook kind of thing. So yeah, I wrote it, for the whole world. It's really accessible, and I hope it inspires people to, I don't know, be a misfit. It's okay to be a misfit. That's kind of that's what.
Yeah. Fly your weird flag, as they say, right? So yeah. Well, and I think anything that is compelling, whether it's a speech, a TED Talk, a book, a sales pitch, whatever it is, an investor presentation, it's all about the story. Like we love stories, right? And I think anybody that, loves a good story would love a story, about a young immigrant woman from Cairo coming here and just really appreciating that all America has to offer and maximizing it to not only for you maximizing, your own gifts, but helping others along the way. Really, and so it's, so I'm sure you would have done great things if you stayed in Cairo, but selfishly, I am so glad you came here and did it for, really for the world, but out of America. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel so privileged and lucky to be here. And I tell my kids, I have an 18-year-old and a 13-year-old, and I just tell them, we're ambassadors to the Middle East and vice versa. Like, we're the bridge builders. But also we're lucky, and we have a responsibility to pay this forward, be it in, the team I've built. A lot of my team are international, / immigrants. And it's just been a joy watching how they've developed professionally and personally over the last 12 years at Affectiva and beyond. I always tell them we're now, even if they leave, they're part of the family. And it's just been really amazing to watch people develop that way and be part of their journey.
Yeah. Well, Rana, I thank you so much for being on the show. I truly appreciate it. If you could leave the Gonzo family with any thoughts, advice, with let's say like starting out being an entrepreneur and, and which is tough enough, right? Just starting a business. And then as you talked about, a young female immigrant. So tell us, like, how did you continue to move forward with all the struggles and challenges that you were facing?
I think having faith and having conviction. I'm so passionate about the work I do, and it's almost like I have this picture of what the world will look like when this technology is out there, and I want to bring people along this journey with me. So yeah, just having this deep conviction and being so passionate about it, about whatever your cause is, I think that's so important. The other thing is I ran into so many naysayers, including myself. Like, I am probably my own worst enemy. I remember a time when we started can I share a story?
Please, I'm hoping. Love stories.
Okay, love stories. All right. So when we started the company, I was the chief technology officer, and we were kind of nudged by our early investors to hire a seasoned business executive to run the company. So I was not the CEO. Then he left, and the question became, who's going to be the next CEO? And the board said, well, Rana should be. But I was so scared. The voice in my head was like, you're going to fail, don't do it. And so I went back the next day and I was like, I don't think I can do this. I can't be the CEO. Now, our head of sales, who had never been CEO before either, and he'd only been at the company for a year, he was like, I'll take the role. And he stepped into the CEO role. So he did that for 2 years. And then, one time I was flying back after I gave my TED talk, and I was on the flight Googling, what does a CEO do? And I quickly realized that, oh my God, I was doing the job. I just didn't have the title. And I had to convince myself first that I was ready. And then when I did that, I talked to him, we took it to the board. It was a unanimous vote, and I stepped into the CEO role. So I guess my biggest advice to all your listeners is just don't be your own biggest obstacle.
Yeah.
Believe in yourself.
Have faith in yourself, right? Even when you don't. I think what you're talking about, they call imposter syndrome, right? Like you would have felt like an imposter, but that was made up. It's not real. It wasn't real, right? You could have been CEO and you could have done it very well, but that voice in your head was disagreeing with you, and that voice was not real, was not right.
It's still there, by the way. It hasn't gone anywhere. I just I've figured out how to have a rebuttal with it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Just get it drunk and put it to sleep,
Okay.
Well, and it might be okay. It's my opinion. It might be okay to have it a little bit, because maybe it keeps you humble, it keeps you grounded, right? Because if you didn't have that voice, you may be so full of yourself that your ego gets out of control, right? And
right.
I mean, the little that I've known you, wicked smart, incredible success. But I feel like I could have a beer with you and just have a great, simple, awesome conversation. Right. And so keep that, keep all parts, right? Keep the wicked smart, but the humble and friendly as well. So
Absolutely.
Excellent, Rana. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you were born and that you came here and that you shared some heartbeats with us today. So thank you so much. And if people want to get in touch with you and, maybe ask questions, learn more, what's the best way to do that?
I am on all the social media platforms, and I actually do try to respond to people who reach out. So please do. I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. So Great. Say hi.
All right. We will definitely do that. Well, Rana, thanks again so much. I wish you continued massive success.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
Absolutely. I feel like we're instant friends, and we'll be keeping in touch.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. I also want to thank the Gonzo family for listening and watching. We're on every Wednesday morning with a brand new episode. Please do me a favor. If you like this episode, share it with some friends. Let's get more and more people listening to the Gonzo Experience. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and make sure to stay awesome.